Jeff Dennis, you are the Managing Director and General Counsel for Advanced Energy Economy. I want to first start off by setting the stage on this. We have this back and forth between FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and a group of southeastern utilities who want to change the wholesale energy market, filing a proposal in February to create the Southeast Energy Exchange Market, which we keep calling SEEM. Alabama Power, Dominion Energy, Duke Energy, and Georgia Power all behind that push, which would potentially impact, I believe, some 5 million households within that region. So, Jeff, help us take it to the next step then. Provide some context on some of the questions that FERC has about this proposal and what implications this could potentially have for renewable energy.
Well, yeah. So thanks, first of all, for inviting me to chat with you today. I would say a couple of things to set the stage. So what the Southeastern utilities are proposing here is a market is a misnomer. It is a platform for these utilities to essentially trade electricity with each other on an as available basis on a shorter time frame than they might otherwise. So on a 15-minute basis, if one utility is a little short of supply, another utility is a little long on supply, they could share those with each other. But it really is really a baby step beyond where the region is now, which is obviously all of these utilities own the vast majority of generation in the region. They charge customers the full price, obviously, for that generation, and they use it to meet their own needs, and then they trade with each other through various contracts or things like that. So they've described this as the Southeast Energy Exchange Market, but what it really is a small step forward for them to perhaps more efficiently share some as available resources on a time frame that's shorter in which they usually contract. Another important thing to remember too is that it doesn't really it doesn't do much to further integrate these utilities and their operations. So it uses transmission on an as available basis at the lowest priority. So that transmission could be interrupted for any reason at any time, meaning that you could not engage in a transaction. And it also requires that you acquire transmission from each of the utilities individually, which means if you wanted to deliver, power from one end of the SEEM footprint, from the Midwest to the Southeast, to the far Southeast to Georgia, you might have to enter into a transmission contract and pay a separate rate to, several utilities. So why am I giving all that little bit of detailed feedback? Because it really impacts the ability of this exchange market, this exchange program, to be of use in increasing renewables in the Southeast. We know that the Southeast has a tremendous solar resource, a solar resource that is being developed quickly, but really needs more market access to be developed even further. And then we know that the Southeast will want to import renewables from other regions where they are available at least cost. And this exchange market platform really doesn't provide opportunities to either of those, either for the transmission that I mentioned, or really for independent generators to be able to build in the region and access the market to supply customers on a more equal footing with the utilities. So that's sort of the context of the proposal and why renewable and advanced energy companies are concerned about it.
Yeah,
FERC.
We did see some opposition come to that pretty early on, right? What was that group galvanizing around in terms of this proposal? What was that real sticking point for you that you noticed?
The sticking points were a couple. One was the Southeast has been a region where there's been almost no ability for independent power producers to build renewables in the region. And independent power producers are a primary driver of renewable energy development in the country. They've had really almost no opportunity to participate in the Southeast due to utility dominance in the region. And the Southeast Energy Exchange market really doesn't do anything in terms of their ability to access the market. And it's very opaque in terms of how they would even be able to participate in this 15-minute exchange product that SEEM would create. Second of all, it's really the transmission access issues. So, think of the transmission system like the interstate highway system. It's the basis by which you can trade in competitive electricity. And this market does not provide the kind of open access to the transmission grid that a broader regional market would provide, like an RTO or an ISO, or even an energy imbalance market that would allow lots of different players to enter the markets to serve their needs. So that's a key thing that we heard from renewable developers. We've also heard lots of concern from large buyers of renewable energy who are equally concerned about the market access issues that this creates. And so another concern that our members have had, certainly, and the broader community has had, is that this exchange market, the way it's constructed and designed and the way that it's governed, could actually allow the utilities to kind of extend their dominance over generation supply in the region, extend their market power, rather than really breaking down that market power, which we think is FERC's responsibility under the Federal Power Act. So those are just some of the issues that we've heard about and some of the issues that FERC is asking the utilities a lot of questions about.
Yeah, and I've heard anecdotally too that there's some concerns that just the absence of a market monitor in this scenario too could be problematic. Why would that be an issue here?
Well, you really want in FERC's policy in organized markets, so regional transmission organization, independent system operator markets, is that they need to have both rules in place to mitigate the potential for someone to exercise market power, to raise rates above what a competitive market would allow, and to have an independent market monitor who's independent of the players in the market. So not one of the utilities, not one of the generators, who polices market behavior and looks to see, is someone engaging in offer behavior that does not reflect economic fundamentals and may be intended to drive price in a direction that would benefit them, whether it's increasing prices for supply or even depressing prices for other competing suppliers. And so those are really important provisions that allow third-party independent players to participate on a level playing field, and something that's missing in the Southeast and that's missing from the Southeast Energy Exchange market. Along with that as well is really independent governance. The utilities are proposing a governance structure that really includes an administration that's run by the utilities themselves. And so that's a problem in terms of, will this platform be independently administered? Or will it be administered by the utilities, which could provide opportunities for discrimination against competing parties?
So how do you see this playing out? I mean, we get the notice of a letter filed, a response needed, a letter filed, a response needed. What's the end game for this, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, the commission has an obligation to act. The utilities filed under Section 205 of the Federal Power Act. And so the commission has to act within a certain time frame. It's within 60 days of the last utility filing. So that 60-day clock is running again after the utilities filed their second response. Another limiting factor that the Federal Power Act unfortunately puts on the commission is that the commission does not have a lot of options at its disposal to really take this platform that's been proposed and kind of take it apart. Say we like pieces A and B, but we think pieces C, D, and E need to be changed substantially. And the commission, I won't say the commission doesn't have authority to actually order the utilities in the region to develop more of a market structure. I think it could in theory, but it would need to develop quite a bit of evidence to do that. And it's not something FERC has preferred throughout the history of developing competitive markets, to allow those to develop organically. And it has it's happened to great success. Unfortunately, the Southeast is really lagging behind, and there is significant evidence out there that this lag in developing more competitive market structures is harming consumers. There's a recent study from last year that shows that an organized market would produce in excess of $300 billion worth of benefits to customers in the region. That compares to the utilities projection that SEEM would produce about $40 million in annual benefits. Those are real benefits and cost savings to customers. And so, certainly the renewable and the advanced energy community wants to work to make sure that we get customers and our members those kinds of benefits, but they really pale in comparison to what a true market structure could produce for the region, not only in terms of cost savings, but additional development of low-cost renewables, the economic development that comes with that, the greater options for customers who want to move to cleaner supplies. That's all missing right now in the region, and it's all things that SEEM just does not produce. Option. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you avoided doing the crystal ball of what's going to play out. You gave me the scenarios. Now pontificate.
I mean, there's a couple of factors at play here. One is that kind of limited scope of review that FERC has under the Federal Power Act. And the second is the makeup of the commission. The commission has 5 members right now, but Commissioner Chatterjee is set to leave really any day now. He announced in July that the commission's July open meeting would likely be his last. And the commission doesn't hold an open meeting in August, so their next meeting is in September. We don't expect that Commissioner Chatterjee will still be on the commission. So it's possible that the votes on the commission are split 2-2. In that case, there's a couple of things that could happen. The commission could decline to issue an order. It could not have 3 votes in favor of any one direction. If it did that, the SEEM proposal would essentially be accepted by operation of law. The Federal Power Act says if the commission does not issue an order or if the commissioners are split, then the proposal by the utilities is approved. So that's certainly one outcome that could happen if the commissioners cannot find 3 votes. The commission could accept it, decide that the benefits outweigh the costs, decide that this does not present market power problems, and it could accept it outright. The 2 rounds of questions from FERC suggest to me that they are thinking very carefully about the transparency, market power, and independence issues surrounding the SEEM proposal. And so there's obviously quite a few question marks that they feel like they have to resolve before they could approve it under the Federal Power Act. So they could reject it as well. They could outright reject the proposal. Another option, and one that we have suggested to the commission, regardless of how it acts, whether it approves the Southeast Energy Exchange Market or whether it rejects it, is to hold a technical conference. So hold an open dialogue and discussion that brings the states into this discussion, state commissioners and state regulators and policymakers, that brings customers into the discussion. And we think that would be a worthwhile thing to do, regardless of what the commission does, so that they can express to the commission how they feel about the future of wholesale markets in the Southeast. Do they want to see more competitive structures developed? We know that some states are thinking carefully about this. South Carolina legislators passed a study bill, and they're going to study regional transmission organization options in the next year. North Carolina policymakers have done so as well. And unfortunately, the utilities that formed SEEM did it mostly behind closed doors. They didn't really involve state regulators. They didn't involve customers in the region until after the proposal was already done and formed and about to be filed with FERC. So, while we wouldn't expect that FERC would necessarily direct the region to take a particular path, we do think that the commission has a role in fostering conversations that we just have not been able to have to this point.